Good day everyone. Classmate and 2-hour instructor of forensic chemistry, Mr. Anthony Gamali. This is Vergara Aljunki and I will be reporting the topic in chapter 6, all about drugs. Let's start. First, what is drugs or drugs? Drugs is a chemical substance that brings about physical and psychological, behavioral and or psychological change in a person taking it. All medicines are drugs, but not all drugs are medicine drugs. What does it means? Ang droga ay ang kahit anong nakakagaling nagpakiramdam or nakakabago ng pakiramdam, kilos o pag-iisip ng tao. Ang droga o drugs ay may dalawang klase, legal at di legal. Lahat ng medisina ay droga. Pero hindi lahat ng droga ay isang medisina na gamot. Medical drugs, a substance which when taken into human bodies cures, illness and or relieves signs, symptoms of disease. Ito ay isang medisina na nakakapanggaling sa isang sakit o nakakagamot sa mga sintomas ng mga sakit. Dangerous drugs, a substance affecting the central nervous system, which when taken into the human body brings out a physical, emotional or behavioral change in a person taking it. Ito ay isang gamot na mapanganib na nakakasama o nakatawan isip. Ito ay isang gamot na mapanganib na nakakasama ng katawan, isip o emosyon at ang pag-iba ng ugali ng isang tao. Drug abuse, any or non-medical use of drugs that cause physical and psychological, legal, economic or social damage to the users or to people affected by users of behavior. Abuse usually refers to illegal drugs, but may also be applicable to drugs that are available legally, such as prescribed medication and certain over-the-counter medication. Lahat ng hindi medical ng ginagamit ng mga gamot ay makakaapekto sa katawan o psychological o illegal at sa isa economic at social damage sa tao. Apektado nito ang kanyang pag-uugali. Examples. What are the examples of drugs? 1 is alcohol, 2 tobacco, 4 cannabis, 4 methamphetamines, or short MDMA, other stimulants such as cocaine. No psychoactive substance and synthetic drugs. The opioids include heroines, non-medical use of prescription drugs. What are examples of medical drugs? Antiseptics, reducing fever and pressure or Pyrus, analgesics, reducing pain and painkillers, anti-malarial drugs, treating malaria, antibiotics, inhibiting germs growth, antiseptics, prevention of germs growth near burns, cuts, and wounds. What are the examples of dangerous drugs? Nicotine, tobacco, alcohol, fentanyl, heroin, cocaine, methadone, oxycodone, morphine, methamphetamines, Xanax, alprazolam. Classification of drugs according to origin. A. Natural drugs are active ingredients in secondary metabolic products of plants and other living systems that may be absolute by an extraction. Example: raw opium, marijuana, coca bush. Ito ay gawa sa mga produkto o gamot galing sa halaman. Letter B. Synthetic drugs are artificial product substance synthesized in the laboratory for illicit market, which are almost wholly manufactured from chemical compounds in illicit laboratories. Example: methamphetamine, barbiturates. Ginagawa ng mga tao gamit ang chemical at walang natural na ingredients. Ito ay ginagawa sa mga laboratories. According to legal classification, RE 9165, Comprehensive Dangerous Drug Act of 2002. PD 1619, volatile substance. RE 6425, classified as regulated and prohibited. Under RE 9165, otherwise known as the Comprehensive Dangerous Drugs Act of 2002, the term of prohibited and regulated was changed into a dangerous drug as which the following classification. But before we process, what is RE 9165? An act instituting the Comprehensive Dangerous Drugs Act of 2002, repealing the Republic Act number 6425, other known as Dangerous Drug Acts of 1972, as amended, providing funds therefore and for other purpose. Immediate precursors. Immediate precursors. Immediate precursors, a chemical substance used in the Dundenstein's manufacturing process become incorrupted in full or in part into the final mobilities of substance under international control, which the Attorney General has found to be by regulation designated as being the principle of compound used or process primarily for use in the manufacture of controlled substance. Number 2 ay essential chemicals. Chemical substance used as reagent or solvent in illegal manufacture or controlled substance. Compounds that are required in the synthetic or extraction process of drugs production. Number 3, narcotic, psychotropic, and designers. Narcotic are drugs or other substances that affect moods or behavior and consumed for a medical purpose, especially one sold illegally. Psychotropic and designers. Any drugs that affect behavior, moods, through or perception. It's as an umbrella term for a lot of different drugs, including prescription drugs and commonly misused drugs. According to international classification. Letter A, narcotic substance. Letter B, psychotropic substance. Number C, designer drugs. Drugs that are created in a laboratory. According to pharmacological classification effects. Letter A is stimulants, an overarching term that covers many drugs, including those that increase activity of the central nervous system and the body. Drugs that are flexible, that immigrating and have sympathetic an effect. Letter B, hallucinogen, psychoactive agent that often or ordinarily cause hallucination, drugs that after perception, thoughts and feelings. Letter C, depressants are drugs that lowers neurotransmission levels, which is the decrease of reduce arousal or stimulation in various areas of the brain. Inhalants, a medical provision for inhaling or solvent or other material providing fever that is inhaled by drugs abusers. Stimulants are drugs which increase alertness of physical composition. Example is amphetamine, strychnine, eye openers, lead poppers, pills, uppers, and hearts. What is reduced empathy? Relieves mental depression, comfort, fatigue, and sleepiness. How taking? Orally as tablet or capsule. General wakefulness and increased alertness of inhibit active. Toxic, from restlessness to coma and death. Danger, dependence and overdose, violence, bizarre and behaviors. Example is shabu, methamphetamine and hydrochloride, Street name, poor man's and cocaine, shabs o abus o siupaw, shang o ice. What it is, white abortless crystals, crystalline powder with a bitter numbing of taste. Effect, general, intensity, irritability, irrational behavior. Long term, psychonist, similar o schizophrenia, difficulty concentrating, loss of interest in sex. Physical, chest pain, irregular heartbeat, hypertension, convulsion, death. Danger, injection from contaminated needles may lead to a risk of infection, phlebitis or symptomia, AIDS, and etc. Hallucinogens are drugs which affect sensation, thinking, self-awareness, and emotion. Change in time and space perception, delusions, false beliefs, and hallucinations may be mild and overwhelming depending or dosed quality of drugs. Example is ecstasy. Street name, ecstasy, Adam Exchange or herbals. How thinking, swallow or hallucination. Effect, exaggerated emotion makes HR and behave. Hike of dress, mouth and stiffens, arms, legs, jaw, dilates of pupils of the eyes, cause fitness, chills, sweating, and nausea. So good. Dangers, it can really kill. Example, LSD, lysergic acid, deteclamine. Street name, Lucy in the Sky with Demons, wedding bells, acid, white sugar, lightning cubes, brain eaters. What is a semi-synthetic alkaloid or substance extracted from fungus which grow on rye, white, and other greens and odorless, tasteless, and colorless. Effect, psychological, vivid and hallucination, confusion, blurring, and distraction between conscious and unconscious through etc. Physical, dilated pupils, flashes, face, increased BP, and etc. Danger, may cause abnormal amount of breakage of chromosomes of WBAC, the carry genes which result miscarriages and birth defect. Example is marijuana. Street name, Mary Jane, flower, pampapugi, brownies, damo, puti, and joint dope. What is comes from cannabis sativa or Indian hemp, look like fine green and tobacco. How taking, smoke in pipe, cigarettes, taking a food, made into candy, snuffing powder, farm mix with honey or butter. Effect, immunity, faster heartbeat, bloodshot, eyes, dry mouth. Long term, chest pain, temporary loss of fertility, cancer, marijuana burn out. Danger, slow down user mental and psychomotor activities. Long-term use lead by psychological dependence by lead of cancer. depressant ay depressant are drugs with depressed or lower function of the central nervous system. Types of depressants. Number 1 is narcotics. Drugs which induce sleep, hypnotics, or stupor or relieve pain, and analgesics. Sometimes that soothes or cause an sensation mental numbness. This is include opium, opiates of heroin, morphine, and codeine. Tranquilizers, a substance that reduces anxiety is an intention and release muscles. The addictives and hypnotics calm nerves, reduce tension, and induce sleep. Example is barbiturates, alcohol, inhalants or inhalants. These are any liquid, solid, or mixed substance that has property release toxic psychoactive vapors of fumes. Example is solvent, glue, gasoline, kerosene, paint, thinner, naphthalene. Are considered dangerous drugs. Dangerous drugs is the substance affects central nervous system, which when taken into human body brings out a physical, emotional, or behavioral change in a person thinking it. It is a substance which thinking into a human body alters mood, perception, feelings, and behavior. Under Republic Act 6425, otherwise known as Dangerous Drug Act of 1972, dangerous drugs are classified into three main categories, namely: letter A, prohibited drugs; B, regulated drugs; C is violated substance. Letter A is prohibited drugs, which include opium, its active component, and derivatives. All preparation made from any of the foregoing and other drugs and chemical preparation, either natural or synthetic, with psychological effect of a narcotic or hallucinogenic drugs, as amended by BP 179 date March 2, 1982. Include self-inducing sedatives and contain a salt or derivative of a salt of barbituric acid and any salt isomer of salt of isomer. Any amphetamine such as any drugs which proceeds by psychological action similar to hypnotic drugs, as amended by PD number 1683 date March 14, 1980. C. Volatile substance. Liquid, solid, or mixed substance having the property of relaxing toxic vapor of forms of any chemical substance which is sniffed, smelled, inhaled, or introduced into a psychological system of the body, processed and induce the condition of intoxication, inebriation, excitement, and stupefaction, etc. Drug dependence means a state of psychonic or physical dependence of both on a dangerous drug arising in a person following administration or use of that drug on periodic continuous basis. Characters of drug dependency. Number 1 is physical dependence. The body physical system changes until the body needs that particular drug in order function. Number 2 is mental or psychological dependence. A need of drug in order to feel a good, to get by or feel normal. Now, syncrecy or side effect. Use refers into the act of injecting intravenously or intramuscularly, or of the consuming either by chewing, smoking, sniffing, eating, swallowing, drinking, or otherwise introducing into psychological system of the body any of the dangerous drugs. Sale mean that are giving dangerous drug whatever or many made whether for money or any other material consideration. Question. Question. What happened to confiscate, seize, and surrender dangerous drug? Plants, source of dangerous drugs, control precursors and initial chemical, instrument and paraphernalia and or laboratory equipment.
Answer. The Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency, or PDEA, shall have custody of all dangerous drugs. plant sources of dangerous drugs, controlled precursors and essential chemicals, as well as instruments, paraphernalia, and/or laboratory equipment that are confiscated, seized, and/or surrendered. The apprehending team or the group in custody of the confiscated drugs shall immediately prepare an inventory and photograph the items in the presence of the accused or his counsel. A representative from the media and the Department of Justice, DOJ, and any elected public official, the items will then be submitted to the PDEA Forensic Laboratory for examination. Within 24 hours after receipt of the items, the Forensic Laboratory Examiner shall issue a certification of the laboratory results. The court shall conduct an ocular inspection of the confiscated items within 72 hours after the filing of the criminal case. The PDEA shall then destroy or burn the items in the presence of the accused. A representative from media and DOJ, civil society groups, and any elected official. However, a representative sample shall be retained. After the judgment has been rendered in the criminal case, the trial prosecutor shall inform the Dangerous Drugs Board that the case has been terminated and ask permission from the court to turn over the representative sample to the PDEA. What are prohibited drugs? Prohibited drugs are pretty much off limits in the eye of the law. This means that they can't be legally bought or sold in the United States. So, you will likely see some sort of trouble if you're caught growing, making, distributing, or using prohibited substances. What are the difference of prohibited drugs and illegal drugs? Or legal drugs? Legal drugs can either be bought over the counter or with prescription from medical doctor. Illegal drugs cannot be legally be manufactured, brought, or sold in the United States or any of the country. And some other drugs are legal in some situations but illegal when abused. What are the common types of prohibited drugs in the Philippines? Two of the most used and variable illegal drugs in the country are methamphetamine, hydrochloride, known locally as shabu, and marijuana. What are the two types of drugs? What types of drugs are there? Stimulants, depressants, opium-related painkillers, hallucinogens. Is it illegal to have drugs in your system? The answer is, there is no law that indicates individuals will be arrested merely for consuming a drug unless the individual is in a public place or operating a machine of some kind and the person is impaired. What are illegal and legal drugs? Alcohol, nicotine, and caffeine are all legal drugs as well. Illegal drugs refer to drugs that are not prescribed by a licensed medical professional, and their use is unlawful under the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act, Department of Justice. What are the most used drugs in the Philippines? Methamphetamine, hydrochloride, dominant drugs in the Philippine market. The availability of illegal drugs encourages them to take illicit drugs. Methamphetamine hydrochloride or shabu remains to be the most abused drug in the country, followed by marijuana or cannabis, sativa, and methylene-dimethamphetamine, MDMA or ecstasy. How can we avoid drugs? Tips for staying drug-free. Learn to set SMART goals. 2. Build habits to stay busy. 3. Sweat it out. 4. Cut out toxic relationships. 5. Utilize support systems. 6. Practice positive self-talk. 7. Adopt a pet. 8. Walk away from stress. Let's have a review. Our topic for chapter 6 is drugs. Drug is defined as, and the answer is, drug is a chemical substance that brings about physical, physiological, behavioral, and psychological change in a person taking it. And always remember, all medicines are drugs, but not all drugs are medicine drug. There are 3 different usage of drugs. First, medical drugs. Second, dangerous drugs. Third, drug abuse. There are classification of drugs, which are according to the origin. A. Natural drugs. B. Synthetic drugs. According to legal classification, A. RA 9165 or Comprehensive Dangerous Act of 2002. B. PD 1619 Volatile Substances. C. RA 6425 classified as regulated and prohibited. Let's start in stimulants. Stimulants are drugs which increase alertness of physical disposition. What are the examples of stimulants? First, amphetamine. What is this? This amphetamine reduces appetite, relieves mental depression, comfort fatigue, and sleepiness. And the effects of these are wakefulness, increased alertness and tentative, initiative, from restless to coma and death, dependence, overdose, violent, bizarre behavior. Another example of stimulants is shabu, or in the other name is methamphetamine hydrochloride. Is this dangerous? Yes. Injection from contaminated needles may lead to risk of infections, phlebitis, septicemia, AIDS, and etc. And its straight name is poor man's cocaine, S. Shrubs, Obas, Shopal, Sha, and Ice. This is a white odorless crystalline powder with a bitter numbing taste, and the effects of this is anxiety, irritability, irrational behavior, and the long-term effect is psychosis, similar as sarcopenia, difficulty in concentrating, loss of interest in sex. In physical, the effect is chest pain, irregular heartbeat, hypertension, convulsion, and death. There are three characteristics of drug dependency. Number one is physical dependence. Number two, mental or psychological dependence. And number three is idiosyncrasy or side effect. The physical dependence is the body's physical system changes until the body needs that particular drug in order to function. And number two, mental or psychological dependence is a need of drug in order to feel good, to get by or feel normal. What is the meaning of use? Use refers to the act of injecting intravenously or intramuscularly or consuming either by chewing, smoking, sniffing, eating, swallowing, drinking, or otherwise introducing into the psychological system of the body any of the dangerous drugs. What is the meaning of sell? It means the act of giving a dangerous drug, whether for money or any other material consideration.
That's all for today's discussion. I hope you learned something for me.